In this video series, we will completely hunt down the physics of wave nature and start hunting other magnificent areas of physics. Good luck to everyone. In the previous video, we hunted down damped oscillation. In this video, we will hunt another type of oscillation, called forced oscillation, and the nature of coupled vibrations, where they appear, their phase spaces, and finally, their mathematics. First, let's examine forced oscillations. Forced oscillations occur when an external oscillation at its own frequency drives a system that naturally oscillates at its natural frequency. To design such a system, we need a mass spring system that oscillates naturally and an oscillation motor that oscillates at a certain frequency attached to that system. This setup represents the simplest forced oscillation design, but different designs can be analyzed using the same method. First, let's derive the equation of motion of the system using Newton's second law. Let's define the forces. First, we have the restoring force of the first spring, which provides the natural frequency. We know this force from Hooke's law. The other spring attached to this mass is connected to an oscillation motor that oscillates at a certain frequency. Therefore, the other force acting on this mass will be a force that varies with the specified frequency. We can write this force as follows. The constant F0 in this force is related to the spring constant and amplitude of the spring attached to the mass. As a result, our Newton's equation of motion transforms into, if we collect the parameters dependent on x on the left side of the equation, if we replace the vectors in each parameter with scalars, dividing the equation by mass. This equation is the fundamental equation for a system undergoing forced oscillation. If we examine the phase space of this system, we observe ellipses at different frequencies and positions, representing how the amplitude and frequency of the initially natural frequency vibration change under external influence. These ellipses resemble the phase space of simple harmonic motion, so our solution must include the simple harmonic motion solution at natural frequency, while the other elliptical trajectory arises due to the influence of the harmonic external force. Therefore, our solution must also include the harmonic equation of this force. Non-homogeneous differential equations like this are solved by finding the homogeneous and particular solutions to reach the general solution. In our phase space analysis, we inferred the existence of two different solutions. The simple harmonic motion solution corresponds to the homogeneous solution, while the harmonic equality of the forcing term represents the particular solution. Omega n is the natural frequency of the freely oscillating system, while omega m is the frequency of the oscillation motor driving the forced oscillation. To determine the constants C1 and C2, let's first substitute the particular solution into our differential equation. Similar trigonometric functions are equated. Thus, we have found the particular solution. Now we can write the general solution for this system. The force F0 is a constant that depends on the force generating the forced motion in the system. A0 and B0 are constants representing the initial amplitudes of the mass undergoing simple harmonic motion. For our system, the force F0 depends on the spring between the motor and the mass, the spring constant and the amplitude of the oscillation produced by the motor. If we examine the solution to the equation of motion of this system, we notice an infinity condition. This is the condition where omega m squared m is equal to k. Looking at the phase space when this condition is met, we see that the amplitude increases over time. Therefore, in our particular solution, the solution for this case must be multiplied by the time parameter. If we take the derivatives of this proposed solution and substitute them into the equation, we obtain the mathematical expressions for C1 and C2. As a result, our forced oscillation equation transforms into the following expression in resonance conditions. According to this expression, if the frequency of a system performing forced oscillation matches, or is close to the natural frequency of a mass attached to the spring, meaning when the term approaches zero, the amplitude of the oscillation will theoretically increase indefinitely over time. Although this may seem strange, as demonstrated in the simulation, when such a system is constructed, the amplitude increases to the extent permitted by the system. I say to the extent permitted, because if the spring is stretched or compressed too much, it loses its elastic property, or the oscillating system interacts with its surroundings by colliding. This phenomenon is called resonance and is one of the most crucial characteristics of interacting oscillatory systems. Resonance occurs when the natural frequency of a vibrating system coincides with the frequency of an externally applied vibration, causing the system's amplitude to maximize. This happens due to the external force influencing the system at a frequency close to its natural oscillation. When the frequency of a forced oscillation system is high, the amplitude of the forced oscillation in our solution gradually approaches zero. Therefore, if the frequency difference is high, high, the system continues to maintain its natural frequency. Now that we have developed an intuition and knowledge about vibrating systems, we are ready to hunt how these vibration mechanisms combine to form wave mechanics. First, let's examine a two-mass system and then generalize this to an n-mass system. A two-mass system is usually in equilibrium, but if energy is introduced to make the masses oscillate, the vibrations are transferred through the springs. Let's once again use Newton's second law to find the equation of motion for the first mass. Two springs act on the first mass, one of which has a fixed end while the other is attached to the second mass. Therefore, two restoring forces act on the mass. The restoring force of the second spring should be the difference between the positions of its two ends. Rearranging this equality. If the two masses and springs are identical, our equation simplifies to. Since our equation contains the term x sub 2, we must also write the equation of motion for the second mass. If we examine the phase space of this system, we observe two different frequencies reflecting the simple harmonic motion. Therefore, we propose the following solutions. Using these proposed solutions in our differential equations. Rearranging. Applying the same process for the second mass. Since similar terms must directly equal 0, we obtain 8 equations. To simplify the process, we can write these equations in a matrix and solve. Let the initial conditions be a sub 2 equals 0 and b sub 1 equals 0. Our matrix simplifies too. By setting the determinant of this matrix to 0, we can find the frequencies. The modes of a system are the frequencies that arise based on the initial conditions. For the system we solved, there are two modes, one where the masses oscillate in opposite phases, and another where they oscillate in the same phase. Each mode has its own energy, frequency, and amplitude. The lower frequency mode is usually symmetric, while the higher frequency mode is anti-symmetric. These modes are found using matrix analysis, as we did. However, as the number of masses increases, the number of modes increases proportionally, making matrix solutions more complex. Now let's find the differential equation for the middle mass in a three-mass system and generalize it for an n-mass system, leading to the wave equation. In a three-mass vibration system, the middle mass is affected by the restoring forces of the springs on both sides. Applying the same method as for the two-mass system, we obtain the following differential equation, assuming the spring constants are equal. This equation can be generalized for an n-mass system by replacing x with u to represent the amplitude direction and using the positions before and after the nth mass, leading to recognizing that the right-hand side represents a second-order derivative. Our final wave equation is the term k over mu, by dimensional analysis, equals the square of velocity. This makes sense because as the tension k increases, the wave propagates faster due to increased force in the string, while increasing mass per unit length m slows down the wave. This is the general equation for one-dimensional waves. All waves in nature follow this equation. In the next video, we will hunt down the properties and solutions of this equation. Stay tuned.